Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hello, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
We come to you today a little subdued because this episode we realize is releasing in the week that is a 1-year anniversary for so many of us of our lives changing.
Yeah.
This comes out
changed,
right?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't this episode release? I believe the date on the calendar is the 8th. It was my last regular day was the 13th of March last year.
It's the last day I had school.
Yeah.
And the old way. I don't even want to say normal. I just want to say the way
it used to
be. Yeah, the way it used to be. Yeah.
I've had every conversation I've had for the past 2-3 days at least have had some mention of this 1-year anniversary. Yeah. Because of March, because of the month of March. I don't think the month of March is ever going to be the same for any of us again. It's always going to mark that time and the change in our lives. Alison and I thought it was important to do so with our preschool peeps and to say, we're in this anniversary with you and we're going to hold that in our hands and own that 1 year. We're in a culture that commemorates anniversaries, right? We commemorate all sorts of anniversaries for things, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to sit with this and we have to say, okay, it's a year.
It's been a year.
Something we would have never, ever, ever anticipated in the world of education or any world, but education. I think I've said this before. I remember when the shutdowns were first starting saying, oh, things can't be that way for long. They'll come up with a solution and we'll all be okay. And okay, maybe we'll have to sanitize more, but we're talking 2 weeks and this thing will go away. Right.
And that's what they said when we closed on the 13th. They're like, you'll be back in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll send home 2 weweeks worth of stuff. And then
it was more like see you in September.
See your number.
And people, we recognize that we have listeners from all over and from many different sorts of communities. Yeah. Some people have really, really struggled in this time. Alison and I agreed we're not going to throw you a dose of toxic positivity, but we are going to talk about some things about how we think about this because I've gotten some interesting information from some courses I've taken and things I've attended. It's helped me to realize that the way that I frame my thoughts around education now, not necessarily my whole life, which just like everybody else, we all have our challenges with this situation. I don't think there's any really great position to be in. When I think about education, I'm somebody in my career I'm a change agent. I'm always helping people change and saying to them, oh, we need to reframe our thinking. We need to reframe our thinking. There are some ways around this first anniversary of the shutdowns and the beginning of what from so many of us was, oh my gosh, there's a health crisis. We do need to start thinking about how we've spent the last year phrasing things and thinking about things. There are a couple of examples that Alison and I were talking about offline that we want to share with you that we hope help you to cope with this 1-year anniversary a little bit and whatever's coming in the future. We still don't know.
We're not out yet. We're not out of it yet.
We don't know. I recently attended a conference and there were people from our state's Department of Ed there. Yeah. And instead of using the phrase new normal, they were using a different phrase.
I would love to hear this new phrase. I'm so sick of hearing new normal.
Yeah. They were calling it the next phase.
That's better.
The next phase of the pandemic, the next phase of education.
Yeah, because I feel like this isn't the new normal. We're not there yet. We're still kind of in it, and this feels temporary, where some of this might.
Does it though? I feel like some of this feels very.
Some of it's going to stay. Yeah, some of it I think is going to stay, but I don't think all of it is. I don't think we know yet. So I feel like since we don't know, I don't think we can call it the new normal because we don't know yet. Right?
I think it's great to not. New normal is like, I don't know, is somebody going to wake up in the morning and blow a trumpet and yell, okay, folks, let's all enter the new normal. This is going to happen in phases. I really appreciated that phrase. That's and as I've been reading really and talking to people in our early childhood environment, and as I'm having conversations with people, I'm trying to grab what I feel like are more realistic phrases for things because it helps me. That phrase. Yeah. We all in some ways, I think, struggle emotionally with what's happened, depending on your situation. Certainly, there are so many people who have lost friends and loved ones over the past year. There are people who've struggled with their health. There's people who've struggled with the mental health issues around being isolated from people. We all have our stuff, Yeah. For me, it helps when I have those thoughts like, wait, there isn't a new normal. There's a next phase. And we're all on this journey together. That just kind of helps me.
It puts a different spin on it. Like, to me, new normal seems so permanent, and I'm not ready for this to be permanent. Like, to me, new phase kind of means we're still working on things here. We're still improving. We're still figuring it out. And that feels lighter than hearing the new normal feels like, oh my God, like all this weight on me. That's how I take that. But I think it's
more realistic.
I might not feel that. Yeah.
I think it's just more realistic to say we're going to go through some phases of getting to a place where things are stabilized and become a normal. Kind of like after 9/11. I also really appreciated, I was listening to a presenter at a conference, and I really appreciated this notion. A few of them, actually, I'm going to share with you. Okay. I was listening to, I believe it was that the person who said this was Dr. Chip Donahoe from the Erickson Institute, a very prestigious person in the world of early childhood, was the keynote speaker. I want to give him full credit for saying it. I'm not the one who said it. And you can look up Dr. Donahoe and see all the books that he has edited and written, and he's really just a brilliant guy. It was thrilling to listen to his keynote. He said things like, we need to stop saying that the students are remote students. They're not remote. They're with us, just in a different way. They're here. And that technology now is not disconnecting us, which is what I hear so many teachers saying. And I understand it. I feel very disjointed and disconnected from people too, but actually the technology is connecting us. So he said we need to think about the fact that if we didn't have the ability to get on the software that we have the ability to get on, we wouldn't have any contact.
Right. And imagine how that would feel. Right.
Yeah, maybe we would have the phone, but that's not the same.
Right. But if we didn't have this technology, school would have ended last year in March. We would have not seen those.
That would have been
again. Yeah. And we'd still, for some places in our world, they would still not have school, so that's, at least now we can connect in a different way, and the children can still get school.
We're just connecting differently.
Lucky.
It actually helped me, and maybe it'll help everybody in their personal life even to think of it that way. I have one son who I haven't been in the same room with for a year, more than a year now, because the last time we were together was last February. And for me and my nuclear family, that is just unbelievable. We see each other. And so it helped me when I think about, because it makes me extremely sad to think about not being in the same room with my son, and who knows when that's going to be. We're not sure. And it helped me a lot to realize and to take that notion from that conference and to realize, okay, I'm connected to him. We see each other on Zoom. We've been Zooming at least once a week Zooming, maybe talking in between. The technology is keeping us connected.
Yeah.
There was one thing I saw. I'm going to butcher it. I'm not going to do the quote correctly, but it basically was that this is the first generation of parents who are not able to be in the same room with their children, but actually we have the means to create even deeper emotional connections than we did when we were in the same room, and we should take advantage of that. I hope that helps people who are listening to us who may be like me, can't be in the same room as your parents, your children, your brother, your sister, whoever it is. The technology is connecting us. And for that, I'm very grateful in my own personal life and in the work with children.
Yeah, because I feel seeing faces, even if it is on a screen, is so much better than just talking on the phone. That's me. I was never a phone talker to begin with. I was never good on the phone. So like I either need to see the face or it has to be never again. Yeah.
Never again.
Or it has to be like almost like a text. Like I was not good. So like this has like made it so I'm like, oh, I could still see Cindy. I still see her every week, even though we're not in the same room. And that made it feel so much less alone for me. Like,
amen, sister. It's
the
been
phone
great.
To me is so separating.
We're even grateful for this podcast because Alison and I connecting with each other this way can't fall by the wayside because we're busy. Right. We have a podcast to do. So even I've connected with other friends using my Zoom account. But Alison and I have this steady thing now. We used to pre-record more episodes at a time. But now this connecting very frequently, I think, has been helpful to both of us.
Yes.
And it's sort of along the same lines of, so the technology isn't disconnecting us, it's connecting us. And folks, the schools aren't closed.
Oh, please stop saying the schools are closed. Please stop saying the schools are closed.
The school building may be closed.
The building might be closed. But school is still in session. It's just different. You're just connecting with them differently now. You're speaking to them in a different way. We're still learning. We're still teaching. We're still in school. School is still in session. It's just the building is closed, and I wish people would stop saying reopen the schools. I'm like, my school's been reopened since August. So whether we're in the building or not, school is reopened. It's just
understand why people, especially a year out, are like, oh, come on, I can't keep doing this.
I get it.
This thing at home. I completely get it.
Totally get it.
And oh my gosh, I don't know what I'd be doing if it was still a situation where my kids weren't steadily going to school as we knew it. It's a different phase of our lives. And the sooner
but it is just a phase. Right?
Yeah, but the sooner that we think about
the phase.
Right. But the sooner that we think about it, I think even as phases, the easier it is. It's more palatable to and I also understand people have to work, and this has been just such a struggle for working families. And oh my gosh. Again, we just want to say, hey, we too, we're with you, and we see you and hear you, and we appreciate when you contact us, and we know that you're struggling. We don't have to try and make that better for you. It is what it is. You are struggling. But the schools, they are open. I work with teachers all the time to help them with the hybrid models they're in, or the in-person with the restrictions that they're in, or the fully remote that they're in. Whatever it is they're doing, there's a lot of work to be done to build this plane together. And we've been working very hard at it. There are other things too. There's one person recently, I think it was at that conference, pointed out, may have been someone that you're familiar with, Alison. There was a panel discussion that featured 3 speakers. One of them was Dr. Holly Sepulcha from Montclair State University in New Jersey.
Okay.
And Holly also is an author and well-known, especially in New Jersey, in early childhood circles. Yeah. She actually runs the rating system for our quality rating improvement system out of Montclair State University. And I've been to conferences with Holly and stuff, and she was one of the panelists, and she pointed out a really terrific point. The phrase about having meaningful interactions with children and one-on-one time with children is not teacher-children interactions, it's teacher-child interactions.
Yeah.
And as we go through the next phase of education, we need to look at information that's coming out now about how children who have had the opportunity to have one-to-one interactions with their teachers, with therapists if they require some extra support for their particular struggles. The children who have had the opportunity to have one-to-one interactions have actually not struggled so much with a learning gap as other people have. And so even just putting that notion back out in the world that we had before, that phrase teacher-child interactions, not teacher-children, will help us to frame the new phase, I think, in education, to say the pandemic showed us that one-to-one interactions actually can have an impact even when we're teaching children who are at home. They're not remote, they're at home. I don't think I ever finished that thought before.
Oh, yeah.
They're not remote, they're at home. So when we're working with children who are at home, they're not remote learners, they're with us, right?
Yeah.
So when we're working with children who are at home, actually, if we can have one-on-one interactions with them, that's really valuable. We have to then bring that into classrooms in the next phase.
Right.
There was another one I just thought of too, when I was talking about the teacher-child interactions. But thank you, Dr. Holly Sepulcha, for pointing that out. And it's just one of the drums that she has beaten in her work before this, not only during this. Her work centers largely around quality environments, including teacher interactions. People sometimes ask Alison and I, you talk about the information, you talk about being research-based, so that's why we're naming the researchers. The current day researchers, not the older theorists like Piaget and stuff. These are the people who are talking about it now. I find it just so disheartening to still be where we are, and yet we end this podcast all the time with wishing everybody hope, and I hope that people are starting to see a little light way down at the end of that tunnel. Somewhere way in the future.
There.
Yeah.
It's there. You got to look for it. Yeah.
You know what drives me nuts? Since we're talking basically about our mental health at this 1-year anniversary, I'm going to tell you something that drives me nuts. It drives me nuts when I'm either reading news articles or watching the news and people are guessing when we're going to be in the new normal. Like, I don't want your guess. I don't want... stop doing that. People are like, guess. We'll be in the new normal in December. We'll be in the new normal in July. We're going to be in the... This drives me nuts.
It does drive me nuts because I read an article, even them saying, like, we think everyone by the end of May will be able to get a vaccine. And I'm like, okay, if you don't know that for sure, just don't say it.
Saying it.
That's how I feel. Like, don't say it because it just gives me more anxiety of like, well, what if May comes and I didn't get mine? Like, what did I do?
Can't you just say, we are rolling it out and getting people... in that case, that example, we are getting people vaccinated as quickly as we can. Please know we're diligently on it. We're asking everyone to be patient. Everybody will get a chance eventually. Like, can't we just
but can we stop putting dates on it? Can we stop putting a timeline here?
Maybe one of the reasons that drives me nuts is because of the work that I do. People now are saying to me, what do you think September is going to look like? And I can't even think about September.
I need to get through March.
I don't know.
Like that also bothers me when people are like, "Oh, what do you think next year's going to be?" I'm like, I have no idea. I need to finish this year. I need to finish this day first before I can even think about tomorrow. So let me just get through this month of March, and then I'll think about April. But I can't think about September right now. So much will change between now and September. So like whatever your projection is. So much is going to change it. So like, why bother projecting? I understand you want to plan. I get people who need to plan and they want to plan for it, but you can't plan right now.
Go to your committee meeting and plan.
Can't.
This whole thing of every other article, it feels like when I look at the news, every other article is like, we're going to be here then and there now, and here's when it's going to happen, and blah, 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 blah. And I understand that they're trying to, don't you think they're trying to calm people down, but actually it's making everybody crazy?
It's making me crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. For me, it just adds to the anxiety. I'd rather you just be like, don't say anything. It's almost like if you don't know for sure, if you don't have definitive scientific evidence that on December 31st, it's going to work, I don't want to hear it. Okay. It's just making me crazier. Yeah.
There will be a next phase. There will be
will be.
another life. There will be another iteration of our lives. Who knows when? And people who are educators who listen to this podcast who are now sitting there like, well, this is a downer. So, we're going to do the best we can with the information as it rolls out. And we're so appreciative that you listen to this podcast. I've gotten some, and Alison too, we've gotten some amazing feedback from people about what listening to us has meant to them. So please know that as we continue to attend learning sessions and conferences and read things and find things and experience things, we are going to continue to share it with you. You are not alone. You are one of our preschool peeps, and we're going to help as best we can with what we're seeing out there. I hope in this upcoming week that everybody gets a chance to just breathe it in, be in the moment, acknowledge however you feel about this time having passed, because whatever you're feeling is legitimate and worthy of expression. And if you are really, really struggling, please know that asking for help is strength, not weakness. And if you feel like you need help coping with this 1-year anniversary, one of the good things is that people are doing telemedicine visits for therapy.
Telemed.
Right? You don't even necessarily have to leave your house. It's so accessible.
So they've made it so accessible and so easy.
Yeah, please. If you work with children, we can't give children something we don't have. If I don't have any sanity, I can't give children sanity. If I don't have peace of mind, I can't give children peace of mind. So if for not your own sake, for the children in your life, have someone help you sort through this if you're having trouble with the thoughts about this year. One of the questions that I'm posing to the schools I work with now is, so, you're asking me about September, and here's my question back. How are you going to support the mental health of your teachers as they enter the next phase of whatever this crazy thing is that we're living through and going to continue to live through in certain ways? Someday there's going to be a generation who knew no different,
I know.
Generation of adults who are like, I am a post-pandemic baby. I have no idea what these people are talking about. Kind of like post, where we learned about the Depression, and we were like, I'm post-Depression. I can't even relate to those people hiding money in toilet paper rolls. What is that about? and there's going to be a whole generation of people who are like, we cleaned out my grandparents' house, and they had 300 rolls of toilet paper and paper towel. What's that about? Oh, those must be pandemic generation people. That's what it's going to be like eventually.
You're right. Yeah. Well, I do feel I had said that about the kids at school. I teach kindergarten. They know no different. This is kindergarten for them. They don't know what it was like before this. They have no idea. This is just normal for them. Wearing a mask to school, that's normal. They won't know any different. Their schooling started this way, so they won't know. It's just going to be a part of who they are as they grow up,
on this 1-year anniversary, I literally live for the day that I can be in the same room with both my children and have dinner. And who would have ever thought that something that I guess I took so for granted in so many ways would end up being so important to me? I will never take that for granted again.
I know.
Oh my gosh, never. Who would have ever thought? Alison and I were in a Facebook thread recently. There were some pictures that came up in my Facebook memories of when we went and lobbied in Washington, D.C. for early education with other colleagues and friends. And I posted it, and people were like, well, I missed you so much. And I said, here's a goal for the end of this when it's safer to travel all together again. Maybe we should take a road trip and visit one of our other friends who moved further away. I'm so psyched even thinking about that.
And so excited for it. It might be 2 years from now.
I don't care. I don't know. It could be a year away.
But you have to do something to give yourself hope like that.
You have to
have something to look forward to. Yeah, you have to have something to look forward to. Yeah, so that did excite me a little.
We will end this episode as we have been ending episodes for a number of weeks now. And we wish you peace on this 1-year anniversary. And we wish you hope. There is hope. Look for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers used to say.
Yes.
There is hope.
True.
And next week on the podcast, we steam ahead with more information about how to work with and raise young children in the times we're living in.
Exactly.
Take care, peeps. We're thinking of you this week.
Yes. Bye, peeps.
Bye.